So one of the big pieces of news today is that Blake Griffin is seeking a trade or a buyout. He and the Pistons have agreed to. He's going to sit out. He's not going to play any games as they sift through this process. Basically, Blake Griffin is on the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons actually have some pretty exciting young players like Jerami Grant, and so they're going to play those guys. I think that they actually have a pretty bright future. Dwayne Casey is their coach. Dwayne Casey is a pretty good coach, especially for the regular season. So I definitely see them being able to make some waves with that young squad. And I think there's a lot of teams who are kind of trying to run with their younger players. But the unfortunate truth about Blake Griffin right now is he is just absolutely horrible. I mean, this guy is really, really bad, which is it's so depressing to see how bad Blake Griffin is right now because we saw him averaging over 20 points with the Clippers for so many years. We saw the Lob City era. I witnessed the Lob City era in its entirety. A lot of people think that Blake was just throwing down tomahawks and crazy dunks off oops from Chris Paul on the Clippers. He had a big outside game, taking a lot of elbow fades and doing a lot of post-up moves, kind of far away from the hoop even. The dude was a beast, but his career has been plagued by injuries from the start. In his rookie year, he didn't even get to play because he had this horrible injury. I think it was a kneecap broken or something like that kept him out the entire season, right? And he just kept having injury after injury after injury, missing so many games, missing playoff runs. You know what I mean? And he was literally playing at an all-star level just 2 years ago. They got swept by the Bucks. The guy was averaging over 20 points on some really good, shooting percentages. And after that year, he had an injury that year. Comes back the next year in 20 games. He's averaging like 14, which is a lot less points than he typically averages. And the worst part is he's shooting at like 35% field goal percentage. This year he's averaging about 14 or less points on 35% field goal shooting. Do you know how horrible that is? Especially for a big man. Big men are supposed to have higher field goal percentages because they're shooting shots closer to the hoop. So that is unfathomably bad, 35%. Now, where exactly is he going to go? Is he going to get traded? Is he going to get bought out? I mean, who's going to really trade for Blake Griffin? I mean, he doesn't really have much to offer, and his contract is just ridiculous. He's owed $36.8 million this season, has a player option for $39 million next season. Nobody on planet Earth is going to trade for that contract. I'm sorry. Now, if he gets bought out, I'm sure there are some teams that are going to get him. But which ones are going to grab him? Is it going to be just any team? Is it going to be a contender? Teams like Brooklyn or LA, that being the Lakers, or definitely not the Clippers because of the bad blood there with Steve Ballmer. But is it one of the contending teams? Who's going to want to pick up Blake Griffin? What does Blake Griffin offer them is what they're going to ask themselves, and is he worth it? And I'm just not sure. I mean, it's really disappointing and depressing to watch how he's just a complete shell of himself. Watching the lack of explosion that he used to have. He used to have so much explosion, and he just has zero now. I mean, it's really sad to watch. It's depressing. He's 31 years old. He can't finish dunks. He has to instead try a layup or just flails in the entire process of trying to get a dunk through or going to the rim. But who's going to pick him up? I'm not really sure, but I am interested to see who's going to pick him up. Will it be the Lakers? Will it be one of those guys? I don't know. Would it be like a San Antonio maybe? I don't really know. I really have no idea. Blake Griffin doesn't have a ring, obviously. I don't even think Blake Griffin's been to a conference finals because that Lob City era never even made it to the conference finals. So there's no way he's ever been to a conference finals. So he definitely hasn't been to a finals, obviously. Definitely hasn't won one. So that's something that he needs on his resume. So I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. But it's going to be interesting to see. Remember, Blake Griffin and CP had a lot of beef. Blake Griffin, I don't know if he was very petty or passive-aggressive, or if both CP and Blake Griffin were passive-aggressive. I'm not really sure. But, I would say that the Detroit squad right now, it actually looks pretty bright with their rooks and their young players. So if I were a Pistons fan, I'd be pretty optimistic about the future.